Thank you for having me, and Tom, thanks for inviting me. So today I'm actually going to be talking about mobile accessibility and a combination of cognitive impairments. This is working, isn't it? Yep, okay. I head up the accessibility and usability team at AbilityNet, so we're a pan-disability charity. We focus our efforts on working with organizations like HSBC, for instance. We worked with London 2012 Olympics last year to help them make their products accessible, their mobile websites, the mobile apps, basically anything we can get our hands on is what we like to sort of focus on. We've got experts in-house who can do accessibility testing. We do user testing as well. We're actually based at Foolproof in London, so that we use their fantastic labs there. So thank you for that. Just to start off, really, what is accessibility? I know we've talked a little bit about accessibility already. Josh did, and Bernie did as well earlier. Accessibility really is to have access. It's in the name. Accessibility is about gaining access to your product, to your website, to your app, whatever it is. It's not anything else, but it is also a vital element of user experience as well. So accessibility is not just a standalone thing where you can just add to a mobile website or your web project. It is part of user experience. User experience is very, very important. Accessibility does not mean compromise at all. You can make it a part of your design. Accessibility can be really sexy. Like on the screen at the moment, I've got stairs with a ramp, wheelchair ramp sort of embedded into this staircase. I've actually not seen this in action, but it looks amazing because it works and it's part of that design as well. So why should accessibility be a compromise? So there are a range of disabilities, and we've gone through a few of them earlier. Bernie going through vision impairment. So you've got vision, hearing, mobility. What I'm going to focus on, though, is cognitive disabilities. But there are so many cognitive disabilities. I'm going to more so focus on learning disabilities, dyslexia. I feel those are the ones that are often missed out. We don't really consider dyslexia as a disability, and I'm sure there's many dyslexics who don't consider dyslexia as a disability either. So it's really about raising a little bit of awareness about dyslexia and learning disabilities. So how many of you actually been doing this? So on the screen here, I've got a couple at home in the dark with an iPad and it could be any tablet really, and their mobile phone, and all they're doing is being a bit antisocial, I would say, and not really conversing with each other. Quick question out there: how many of you actually only use a mobile phone or a tablet to interact? Can you just have a raise of hands there? Primarily. Oh, you primarily use a mobile phone to actually interact with anyone online, to access content. Can I get a raise of hands that you only use a mobile phone? Nope. Do you guys still have desktop computers and you still use your desktop machines at home? Yeah, there's a few more nods then, not really. Okay, bit of a variation there. Well, that is much the same for the people with disabilities as well. I mean, I would say, with some research out there, thanks to Jared on WebAIM website as well, there is a lot of stats there saying that actually most people with disabilities use a mobile phone now. So mobile is really, really important. And how you actually have content on mobile is really important. How you design for mobile is really important. So here is a quote. I'm going to read it out. I love my phone, my iPhone. It helps me to keep on top of my life. My iPhone acts as my digital reminder, my book reader, my lifestyle coach, question answer, and worry manager. It's often the first thing I see in the morning and the last thing I see in the evening. That is definitely the case for me as well. It is usually the first thing I see in the morning. It wakes me up in the morning. And it is sometimes the last thing I see at night. Shouldn't really, but I'll be checking my tweets or something and using it at night as well. And this was actually from a dyslexic user who actually said, I just love my iPhone. It's just the most amazing thing in the world, and it is like a mini robot in your pocket, which actually does so much for you as well. But instead of looking at accessibility and mobile accessibility especially as a way of, from a disabled person's perspective, I want to kind of focus on accessibility being as part of customization and personalization, really. And how I use my iPhone as well as a non-disabled person. I mean, for instance, on the screen you've got a lady with her iPhone in sunshine on the beach, trying to take a picture probably. I've done this before. And often enough, when you're trying to take a picture in sunlight, it's really difficult to actually see the picture that you're trying to take. So you have to bump up the brightness on your phone. Now, that's me without an impairment, increasing the brightness on my phone so I can see the picture. I'm customizing my phone the way I need it to be for my non-impairment, but that's the same for someone who does have a disability as well. So you've got to look at it, from that point of view. If you have tiny screen on your phone, if you have tiny text on your screen of your phone, you're going to zoom into it. You're going to increase the size of the text if you have an opportunity to do so. In addition to that, on the screen at the moment, I've got Android's accessibility features, and I've also got sort of iPhone's assistive touch features as well. Now, I use both of these as well. So, for instance, on Android, I'll have TalkBack on, which is Android's native screen reader. And I do use it quite often just because of sheer laziness as well. So if your website content, your mobile website content has got good heading structure, it's made accessible, it's taken good sort of accessible design principles, and again, I've got references towards the end of the presentation, but there are some great websites out there that can actually show you how to design for mobile, for everything, basically. But with assistive touch, I actually discovered this in a really strange way. I broke my iPhone's button at the top, so the top button which enables you to actually lock your phone, and I realized I can't lock my phone, and I use that button so much. I don't really think about it, but I do use it a lot. But using assistive touch, I was able to navigate around my iPhone a lot easier, and I didn't have to think too hard either. You can customize assistive touch as well, which is fantastic. So VoiceOver, which is iPhone's or Apple's native screen reader, I use this on a regular basis now. In fact, the other day, my eyes were absolutely killing me. So I turned on VoiceOver and I started navigating on Flipboard. I started having a look at my tweets, all with my eyes shut. And again, it was kind of out of laziness, but it was also because I knew I could, and I knew that some of these apps out there, like Flipboard, like Pocket, where I send all of my articles to read, they are accessible, and they've made accessible, and it's not been difficult for them to make it accessible, but I know that without an impairment, I can sit there using VoiceOver and actually, out of laziness, like I said, access this content. Speech on selection, another one that I use. In fact, I used this morning as well. Actually, I am using a lot of these accessibility features. I mean, how many of you have how many of you got a smartphone in this room? And how many of you use any accessibility features? How many of you would like to learn how to? That's great. Okay, well, Speak on Selection is the most amazing thing ever. I can select a whole bunch of text on my phone and let it speak to me. And that's fantastic when I'm straightening my hair in the morning. It's great for when I'm driving, so if I know I've got a text message that has come through, it's a little bit fiddly, but I will sort of select all the text and just hit the speak button, and it will speak. And it's great because I don't have to think, I don't have to look anywhere else, I don't need to get distracted. I love listening to podcasts, I love, just accessing content on my mobile. So now that I can have it speak to me, why the hell not? So cognitive disabilities. There are so many cognitive disabilities. It's really going to be difficult to cover all of them. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to focus a little bit more on dyslexia, learning disabilities, and you know, the minor ones really, and try to talk to you about how you can actually design for dyslexics, how you can write content as well. So this was an interesting fact that I actually learned this morning. So currently 2.4 million students are diagnosed with learning disabilities in our schools. That represents a whopping 41% of students receiving special education. I was quite surprised by that, but hey, that's data from 2010, so I wonder what it is 2013. I actually couldn't find anything for 2013, but definitely very, very interesting. So I'm actually going to look at some personas. So instead of actually talking about someone with dyslexia, I'm going to represent it in a persona sort of format. So on screen at the moment, I've got Sarah. Sarah has short-term memory problems with what she sees and hears. It's difficult for her to remember what she has already entered in long forms or previously read in articles and split into multiple pages. So how you would design for someone like Sarah would be keep it consistent. So with your mobile designs, make sure things are in a familiar place. Keep that in a consistent format as well. So, you know, I'm going to be referencing BBC's website a fair bit, only because they do a really, really good job. But on the screen at the moment, I've got three URL section of the mobile page where it says BBC homepage, BBC News Home, and then you've got sport, and then it says just BBC Sport. So it's just keeping it consistent, keeping things in visual places, and also just from a hierarchical sort of perspective as well. Use images. Images are just amazing as long as you have appropriate the alt attribute on there and keep it descriptive. Obviously, if it's not really important, just put in nothing in there. It's null. That's absolutely fine. But for someone who has dyslexia, for someone who has learning disability, you know, images are really, really important. Images can break up a page. It just basically describes what you're trying to say. So include images in there. Think about your writing style for Sarah. You know, Sarah would probably benefit from having symbols and icons on the page, short sentences, words that are sort of easier to understand, and make sure if you've got any error messages on the page as well, try to keep them very, very simplistic and describe what the error is. Here's another writing style that you could embed into your website or your mobile site. This is just purely using symbols. Now, I completely appreciate that it would be really difficult to actually implement this on every website that you have or every web project or mobile site that you have, but it's a great way of doing it. So you've got Barcelona and a sort of description of Barcelona there, and then you've got superstar as a star. Striker Lionel Messi has won the European Golden Boot for the 3rd time. Lionel scored 46 goals. Try and follow it with the images, though. In 2012-2013, Spanish League, helping Barcelona finish top of the table. So you don't have to use that many symbols in what you're doing, but you could use 1 or 2 of those. But more importantly, use icons. So let's take a look at Steve. So Steve has a problem processing text, particularly with words that are spelled incorrectly or when acronyms or metaphors are used. He prefers clear and concise text to help him understand. And again, you know, I've referenced BBC's website here, so sticking to a minimum text amount, ideally sort of 12 points, 13 points roughly. Using sans serif fonts, actually. Avoid using italics. I'm actually using Helvetica for my presentation. And on screen, I've got actually an example from Kayak's website. So if you use Kayak as an app, fairly good actually, because the colors are great, the description's very short, to the point. It's got images on there. It's well laid out. There's plenty of spacing between everything as well. So it just makes a really good example of a good site that works for someone with cognitive impairments. So think about your writing style here. So clear heading, bulleted lists, numbered lists, indented quotes. So just keep it really clear. Make sure you are actually using descriptive and keep it simple. I think that's the key thing here. You know, try to keep it simple. Don't overdo it. Don't overcomplicate it. So another example just on the screen there. So I had a Kayak's website, but now I've also got Barclays' mobile website as well, which is, again, very simple. You've got an icon and you've got a link with a description. So you've got an icon of a phone and it says contact us next to it. Keep it intuitive as well. Next persona I've got on the screen is Emily. So Emily finds it difficult to read large paragraphs of text. She doesn't like high contrast between foreground and background colors. Now this makes it really tricky if you are actually designing for someone who is visually impaired and likes to have higher contrast. So there's a bit of a difference there, you know. So you're trying to kind of design something that fits for everyone. You're not going to be able to. To be as realistic as possible, you're not going to be able to design for absolutely every single disability out there. What you can do is design for customization. So work with style sheets, have alternative style sheets available for users to just click on and change. So for someone like Emily, use left-aligned text. Try not to justify the text. You know what? I find that really difficult to read. So, you know, fully justifying text is known as rivers of white. So you can't really read it properly, and a dyslexic person would actually read something like this. So this is what a dyslexic person sees. And obviously that's a variation of dyslexia. So we're talking from sort of milder to a higher sort of level of dyslexia as well. So it's not the same for everyone. So here's a great example of design and what sort of color you should use. So on the screen, actually, I've got the Kindle app that I use on my phone. And what I love about the Kindle app, actually, is that you can customize your fonts, your text, sort of spacing. You can customize your color scheme. You can customize the size of your text as well. Now, the color scheme that I've got on the screen at the moment, which is cream or pastel colored backgrounds, so pastel sort of shades, that works for people who have dyslexia. And it's a lot easier for them to actually see. But again, you know, coming back to the point of you can't cater for everyone, but having an option there, such as black on white, or having like the sepia or the you know, the white on black option as well, it makes a massive difference. So with your writing styles, again, I've used Kayak website. Again, very simple icons. Keep it simple. It's on mobile. You've got small screen space. You don't want to have large paragraphs of text. You don't want to overcomplicate things. You know, try to summarize key information wherever possible. So if you've got something really important, make sure it's at the top of the page and keep it very short. So writing styles. I find this fascinating, actually. So here's an example of a paragraph of text. If there are any points on which you require an explanation or further particulars, we shall be glad to furnish such additional details as may be required by telephone. Have a think of that. What is that paragraph actually trying to say to you? If you have any questions, phone us. Maybe, you know, just something really simple, one sentence. You know, I can't say it more. Keep it simple. It doesn't need to be complicated, especially in a mobile screen. You know, you don't need to have almost 4 lines of text to just say, phone us. So designing for your future self. I was contemplating whether to kind of actually have this part of the slide deck in my presentation today. Reason being, it's not, you know, designing for your future self, it's all about getting older. You know, in reality, I mean, let's face it, we are all getting older. We started getting older from the age of about 20. And it's true. I mean, I've got a couple of people smiling at me like, what, really? But it's true. We started getting older from the age of about 20. You know, you can pick up an impairment as you get older. It's not as though you're going to be born with a disability. always. You could have a disability later on. So design for your future self. So today's app developers are actually tomorrow's OAPs. It's true. It's absolutely true. You know, I come from a design and development background myself, and I remember when I got introduced to accessibility, I was thinking, how would my dad look at this? How would my mum look at this in the future? How would my grandpa look at this in the future? And then they started getting older. And my dad started to form a impairment, so he started to lose his vision. His hearing started to get worse, and I realized, damn, I need to start thinking about this now. You know, how am I going to interact with this website or this application on my phone as I get older? I might not be able to click these buttons as I do now. So I'm going to take a look at one more persona before finishing up. So we've got persona of Anne. Anne has had arthritis since she was in her 40s, and she struggles with fine motor movements, such as clicking on links and buttons that are positioned close together. I have issues with that already, actually. She's recently discovered the iPad and now uses that to browse online. However, she struggles to read small text and prefers better contrast on her vision, as her vision has become poorer over the years. That is probably going to be all of us in this room. That pretty much sums up what I reckon is going to happen with me. I mean, I'm short-sighted, so I know eventually it's going to get worse. And how do I deal with that? How would you deal with that? So a couple of design considerations there. You know, again, provide clear, descriptive icons, clear links, logical, intuitive navigation. Don't use color to convey meaning. You know, this is not for someone who's completely blind, but someone who has color blindness as well. It's no use saying click on the red button, because you might not be able to see that red button. So keep it, you know, think practically as possible, really. And more importantly, you know, aging is not a disability. It really is a part of the normal cycle we're all going to experience. You know, this image actually really does remind me of my dad. You know, I mentioned that he started to pick up impairments as he was getting older. And it's been the case for my mum as well. So she actually had arthritis from a very young age. And now, actually, she will not go near a laptop. She will not go near a desktop computer, but she will pick up an iPad and she will start interacting with an iPad. But what she struggles with is, you know, the small buttons next to each other, form elements, for instance, quite close to each other. Try and avoid these sort of things, because that's going to be you one day. So what I want you to take away from this, focus on designing and developing mobile interfaces which can be customized and personalized to an individual's needs and requirements. It's really simple. You know, accessibility does not need to be complicated. And don't overthink accessibility, and consider the aging population, because that is all of us in this room one day, especially when it comes to mobile and tablet interfaces. I mean, if you imagine your needs and requirements to use technology now, it's probably going to be much the same in another 30 years' time. You're still going to want to interact with your mobile phone. It might be something completely different, actually, in 30 years' time. You might be interacting with your bathroom's mirror or something, you know, reading the news on there while you're brushing your teeth or something like that. But consider that now, because if you don't consider that now, you're not really going to appreciate what everyone is actually going through in the future. So that's my presentation, so thank you. Couldn't really end it without having a cat on the screen, so thanks very much. You've been a fantastic audience. And I'm going to leave you with some resources as well, which I'm sure will be made available. But if you do want to jot a few of them down, feel free to do so. Thank you.